Welcome to Built to Go, a Vanlife podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Wagg, coming to you from the College of Curiosity. This time it's episode 303, and we're going to talk about some weird things you can stick into the back of your rig. That's right, we're talking about hitch accessories, and some of them might be useful. We're also going to talk about those pinch welds on the side, bottom of your van. You got to watch out for those things. And a product review of something that promises you the world and gives you a damp puddle in a parking lot. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Very happy to be here with you today. I've got some stuff in this episode I've been meaning to talk about for a while, and I'm going to get to it immediately. So many of us have rigs, whether they be vans or trucks or cars or SUVs or whatever you have. You may have a hitch installed at the back, specifically a receiver hitch, which is basically a square tube that is attached to your vehicle, and you can put things in that tube. Now, the most obvious thing to put in that tube would be a hitch. And these hitches are things usually that have a ball on the end, and you put trailers on them, typically. But you can put all kinds of other things on them, too. In fact, a lot of people install these on their vehicles just to put a bike rack on there because it's a nice, strong attachment point. Now, there's a lot of stuff to talk about with receiver hitches. They come in different classes, etc. I am going to be assuming you have a Class 3 hitch, which is quote-unquote the normal size with a 2-inch receiver. Some smaller vehicles have a smaller size, and there are adapters for that. But I don't want to get into all those details right now. What I want to talk about is some of the unusual things you can do with that hitch, because they do a lot more than towing and carrying bikes. And this is by no means an exhaustive list. This is just a list to get you thinking about this resource you have in your van that you may not have thought of. And it can do a whole bunch of different things that are useful throughout your entire van build and your van life, regardless if you have a van or a truck or a pickup or an SUV. And holy cow, that was a very long sentence. Okay, number one on my list, and this is something I'm actually thinking about doing for myself. It's actually sitting in my cart right now. It is the Kaxiwei, Kaxiwei, hitch mount umbrella holder. Now, hold up a sec. Why do I need an umbrella holder on my hitch? Well, I don't really need that. What I need is an awning. Yes, this is a way to have an awning without making any permanent alterations to your rig, but also without having to set up one of those awkward, fragile canopy things that blows away in the wind. All this thing is, and this is just the holder, is this strong square metal tube that comes out of your hitch and then has a leg that sits on the ground. Then it has a tube that is vertical, and you put your umbrella in there. And that firmly attaches your umbrella to your vehicle, making it semi-permanent, but what it does is it makes it really strong. And then you can put whatever umbrella in there you want. I found an umbrella that looks pretty good. It's a double umbrella, and it's 14 feet wide and 7 feet deep, about the size of an awning. And I haven't tried it yet, so I can't recommend it or anything, but I'm thinking this might be a great way to have a nice shaded space outside your rig, any rig, without having to go to the trouble of and expense of installing an awning or using one of these pop-up canopies. Now, again, I haven't tested this, and with all of these things, you have to consider how much space there is between your hitch and however you're getting into the back doors of the vehicle. So keep in mind whether you have a van with barn doors, or you have an SUV with a hatchback, or you have a pickup truck with a tailgate, whatever you have, keep that in mind for this entire list. With this hitch mount umbrella holder, it is designed for pickup trucks, so theoretically it should be fine with the tailgate down. But if you have a truck camper, well, the height of the umbrella could be an issue there, because I can see situations where it would be difficult to get past the umbrella into the truck camper. But you'd have to check that out for yourself. But I think this is definitely an idea to consider if you're looking for a shade solution that would be fairly easy to put up and fairly easy to take down. This might be a great way to do that. However, big caveat here, You also have to have a place to store the umbrella. One of the nice things about awnings that are attached to your vehicle is that they store themselves. They're just hanging on the side of the vehicle. You don't need any more storage for that. For this solution, just as with the pop-up canopy, you will need some place that you can store not only the umbrella, but the hitch, and they're pretty big. I think you would probably end up looking like maybe somewhere on the roof to store this stuff, but you'll have to figure that out for yourself. Number 2, the Viking Solutions SwiveLift Crane. Do you want a crane on your vehicle? You can have a crane on your vehicle. Now, there's a bunch of these, and I've been looking at them for a while for my pickup truck, actually, because I have this problem where I have something that weighs 400 pounds that I need to get into the back of the truck, and I'm not exactly sure how to do that single-handedly. I looked at a bunch of these cranes, and this one I think is the best. It is the Viking Solutions SwiveLift Crane. And unlike most of them, this thing is basically like an elevator. You've seen those baskets that you can attach to the hitch that people haul extra stuff in all the time. This is basically one of those, but it goes up and down. So anything you put on there, you can then crank up and get it to the height of your van or truck or whatever, and then pick it up and move it off of there. Might be a good solution for folks that have something heavy that they need to get in and out of the van all the time and they weren't really sure how to do it. Again, make sure these solutions work for your situation, but I want you to be aware that they exist. If that elevator style doesn't sound good to you, there are a number of other ones that are much more crane-like, where they have an arm that is suspended in the air that has a hook that comes down, and you can either crank that or pump it or whatever, but you basically use the hook to lift up whatever you want to lift up, and then the whole thing swivels, and you can swivel it into the back of your pickup truck. And, well, for the deer hunters out there, and if you start researching this stuff, you're going to see lots of pictures of dead deer. They make a whole bunch of ways to haul a deer up by its hind legs and do whatever you need to do to it, and then just swivel it into your truck. I'm assuming that most Vanlife people aren't doing that unless they're doing Vanlife in addition to hunting. Okay? But if you are, there's a solution for you that you may not have thought of. Number 3, this is a hitch mount Vise plate. So this is just a plate, but it's a heavy-duty plate that comes out the back, and it's basically, it gives you like a little square table with holes in it, and you can mount anything you want to that. So sure, you can put a table on there, that's easy, but you could also put a table saw on there, or a vise, or any kind of tool platform. And if you were doing something like working on your rig in places where you didn't have a shop, but you needed a really secure place to like cut wood or hold pipes in a vise or other pieces of trim or something like that, this might be a great solution, especially if you're working by yourself, because you can mount anything you want to this plate, including power tools. Anything you want that will fit on these holes, and if you're clever, you can make anything fit on these holes, you can mount to this plate, and you'll have all the security and weight of your truck basically holding it in place. So I can see a lot of uses for this. You can kind of treat it like a Laguna table if you want. I mean, you can put, again, whatever you want on there. So put that in your quiver of creative solutions to difficult problems, and that one might come in handy. Number 4, something a lot more common that I've seen is the hitch mount hammock. There's a few different styles of this, but basically it's a hammock that you can hang on your hitch mount. The one I have linked to comes in 2 different versions, but to be clear, what I'm talking about here is this is a hammock that you can sleep in. Some of them have chairs, like chair hammocks that hang, and there's 2 side by side. That's the thing too, but this is one that you could sleep in. So this could actually be your sleeping arrangement if you're camping in nice weather and don't mind sleeping in a hammock. But the 2 versions of this are interesting. The one I have linked is the Hitch one that works much like everything else on this list. The tube comes out and you hang the hammock off of it. They also make one that doesn't need a hitch. And I could do a whole other podcast on accessories like this, but this other one, you drive over a plate and then the weight of the car holds it in place. And then the hammock is off the side. So that's another solution too that I wanted to mention, because that might be a better solution. And heck, that way you could use the hammock with any of these other hitch accessories as well. Number 5, is the EEZ RV Hitch Mount Starlink and Flagpole. So for those of you who have Starlink and you're always looking for a place to put your Starlink, and that can be a problem in the wind or whatever, this is similar to the umbrella holder, but it's specifically designed for Starlink and flagpoles. So it is not as heavy duty as the umbrella holder, and it's also not as expensive. And you can put a flag on there, and you see people driving around waving flags all the time. A lot of them are using this type of accessory. Or you can put a Starlink pole there, and you would just take your Starlink out and mount it to this, and that way it's off the ground, it's secure to your vehicle, it can't blow away, it can't blow over, and you just have to be careful how you parked so that you can aim it in the proper direction. But that wouldn't be difficult because this thing swivels. It's a pretty clever solution. If I were traveling with Starlink and it wasn't permanently attached, I could be tempted by that if I had the space to store it. Because remember, all of these things, you have to have a place to store them. Number 6 is the log Sawhorse. I've seen a few different versions of this, but the whole concept behind this is that if you're cutting a lot of wood, you often need something to hold on to the end that you're not cutting, and that's what this is. It comes off the back of the hitch, and then it has teeth, and you rest the log on it, and the lower teeth grab the bottom, and then there's upper teeth too, and that suspends it in air, which is the perfect way for cutting logs. So if you got an 8-foot, 4-inch diameter log and put it on the back, you could just cut it without moving anything except your saw. You could do as many cuts as you needed, and then you'd be done. You wouldn't have to cut and then move, which is a lot of labor. This would make cutting wood a lot easier. Now, you do have to be able to pick up the log and put it in there, so you have that issue. But other than that, this could make cutting much, much simpler. And then the last thing I have, perhaps the least useful, but it definitely deserved a mention, is the bumper dumper. Yep, I don't even need to say anything else. You already know what it is. But I'm going to say something else, just in case you don't. It's a toilet seat that mounts to your hitch. So what would this be for? Well, I imagine it would be for all the normal things that toilet seats are for. It's just attached to your truck very firmly. I don't know why you would need this, but if you did, it exists, and there's a link in the show notes. To me, a bucket would be better, but this exists, so I'm going to put it out there into the universe, and let's see what happens with it. For all of these, there's links in the show notes, and you can find them at builttogo.com. They're all affiliate links, but use that for information. Go find these things wherever you want. That is the best for you. And remember that there's multiple variations of these. I tried to pick the best one I thought for Vanlife, but you should definitely do a bit of research and make sure it's the right one for you. Tech Talk. Let's talk about pinch welds. Pinch welds, or pinch welding is a thing that you're never going to do yourself unless you're an auto manufacturer. But for unibody vehicles, that is vehicles where the frame is integrated in the vehicle, which includes nearly all vans these days, they have this thing called a pinch weld that runs down the bottoms of the sides of the bottom or the bottom of the sides. Either way, that works. And it's basically what it sounds like. The different parts of the body are pinched and welded together, and you'll see it's like a seam that goes completely along the underside of the vehicle. Cars have these too, and it is usually where you jack up a car from. There'll be a reinforced part just behind the, say, front wheels, and that's where the jack goes, and you jack it up, and if you look in the owner's manual, it'll tell you to put it there and everything. And because of that, a lot of people think that's how all vehicles are jacked up. But it is not. It is not. Let me say one more time. It is not where you jack up a van or a truck. Do not jack up your rig with the pinch welds because your vehicle is too heavy and that pinch weld is too weak and you will crush it. How do I know this? Because when I had my tires replaced in my Sprinter van, I took it to a professional and they did this and crushed it. And I had a step there, and they crushed the step too. Didn't tell me about it. I found it on my own, and when I brought it to their attention, they denied doing it. I know better. Anyway, that's a separate issue. Point is, do not jack up your vehicles on pinch welds, and if you ever have anybody else who's going to jack up your vehicle, such as someone replacing tires, have them use a lift or something else. Now, if you look in your owner's manual, there is an approved specific place that you're supposed to jack up your vehicles. It works with the jack that comes with the vehicle, and it works with floor jacks. So there is no excuse for ever jacking up the vehicle on the pinch weld. It's just that that's such a common way to do it, people tend not to think. It would not be a bad idea if you have a white van or if you can make a sticker to go under there and go to those normal quote-unquote jacking points and have it say, do not jack here. In fact, underneath my Airstream, it says that in similar locations. The Airstream, like your van, has a specific spot for jacking, and it is labeled. And I think that's not a bad idea. But don't make the mistake I did of trusting professionals to know this. They should know this, but they don't. And I've been seeing a lot of people on Facebook complaining about crushed pinch welds. It is repairable, but it's not easily repairable. I mean, often it needs to go to an auto body shop, and they need to actually alter what is essentially the frame, except we're talking about unibody, to kind of bring it down. They have to drill a hole in it and then punch it back down into shape. It's a mess. You don't want this to happen. If you're at all confused about how to jack up your vehicle, read the owner's manual. And there's some help with that later in this podcast. Product review. Oh, I've been waiting to do this one for a while. Let me state unequivocally right at the beginning that this is not, I repeat, not a product I recommend you buy unless you have a very, very specific use for it. And even then, it's probably twice as expensive as it should be. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce to you the Arctic Air Grip Go. And this review applies to all similar devices. I just happened to buy this one at Walmart, so I can talk about it with some, authority. This thing is, quote-unquote, an air conditioner. Except that, of course, it isn't an air conditioner by any stretch of the imagination. But when you look this thing up, you will see graphics of it blowing out icy cold air that'll keep your rig cold, blah, blah, blah. There's a whole bunch of different ones of these. And this isn't even the one that got all the attention because of TV commercials about 10 years ago. This is just one that Walmart sells, so it's pretty common. This is Arctic Air. I think there's another one that's called Arctic Breeze. They're all something that sounds really cold. And they claim that they are air conditioners in some cases, but they're very careful about this. For example, in the listing on Amazon for this particular product, it says portable air cooler for room or outside. Beat the heat with the Arctic Air Grip Go personal air cooler that features hydro chill technology and an evaporative air cooling cartridge that helps turn unbearable hot air into cool, refreshing air instantly. $29.94. Doesn't that sound wonderful? I mean, it's hot out there. We're sweltering. Some of us have upgraded to 12-volt air conditioning or have another solution for their rigs, but the rest of us are like, it's really damn hot in here. And I can't afford whatever it costs to put an air conditioner in. And what's this, $29.94? I can be cool? Let's do it. So I bought this thing on the way to Colorado, very specifically because I was going to Colorado. Because what this device and all devices like it do is nothing more than make water evaporate. That's it. That's all they do. They somehow make air blow over water or a wet sponge, or in the case of this one, a mist that these little nozzles spray out. And that water evaporates. When water evaporates, the energy needed to turn wet water to a gas, steam, or in this case, steam that just dissipates and is gone instantly, that energy comes from the heat in the air, which makes the air colder. That's how phase change works. I've probably gotten too deep into that. But the bottom line is, cool air will come out of this thing so long as the water is evaporating. And I'll say cool, it's not cold. This thing isn't going to blow 30 degree or, say -1 degree air. But it'll blow air that's maybe 10 degrees Celsius or, 50 degrees Fahrenheit. And it feels cool when it blows on your face. And what happens with a lot of these is people will see one and try it and they feel cold air coming out. And they're like, oh, this works great. For a minute. It works great. It's a swamp cooler. If you've ever heard of swamp coolers, these are popular in places like Utah and Wyoming and Nevada and places where it's very, very, very dry, and they actually do work there, so long as it's very, very dry. And that is the trick with these things. These don't work at all if there's humidity in the air. Because remember, this thing works by making water evaporate. And the whole problem with humidity, and why humidity is so uncomfortable, is because water can't evaporate. So all that sweating you're doing isn't really helping you that much, because it's just collecting water on your skin. Okay, I'm a little fired up about this thing. I bought one knowing what I was getting into. And I brought it out to Colorado, and it was very, very dry. We were at 7,700 feet, and it was about 80 during the day. And in my truck camper, it was getting hot, and I thought, okay, we'll try this thing out. I filled it up with water, like it says. Now, this thing, this particular one is a clamp, so you can clamp it onto things, and then there's a head that swivels around. A lot of them are just like little cubes you sit on a desk. Doesn't matter. They're all basically the same. So this one has this compartment you fill with water, and it's a USB rechargeable device, so there's a battery in there, and you press the button, and this really bright blue light comes on, the fan comes on, and then these two little nozzles spray mist at you. The fan blows over the mist evaporates, and the result is cool air. And indeed, when I first turned it on, nice, cool air blew out. And I thought, okay, well, that's really all I wanted out of this thing. I guess I can't complain too much. Did this cool off my truck camper? No, not even close. The truck camper temperature didn't go down a single degree. All this thing did was blow a little bit of cool air on me. So even at its best, even when it's ideal conditions, what you're going to get from one of these things is a little bit of a cool breeze that blows on your face, which can be nice. My ideal use for this device is that you're sitting down to eat lunch in your rig, it's hot, and you want to eat your lunch without sweating all over yourself. So you can clamp this thing to the table and have it blow in your face while you're eating lunch. And you know what? That would be more pleasant. It is really pretty good at that. But that is about the only situation where it's good, because consider all the details in this. Lunch, hot, dry, and lunch again. Lunch again because you have to mention it twice. Lunch is good because you're in one place. You're sitting there in one place, and this thing is blowing directly at you. So you're not moving around, because this is not cooling any area. It's just cooling what it's blowing on. Second thing about lunch is it's short. You are probably not having a 2-hour-long lunch, which is good, because this thing isn't going to last 2 hours. Maybe at the most. Now, they advertise it lasts for 5 hours, but that's the battery. The battery maybe sort of kind of will make the fan go for 5 hours, but the little water reservoir can't hold that much water when it's super dry, which is the only time this thing's going to work. So that's what these things are for. Having lunch. Other than that, they're really not useful. They're not going to help you sleep at night, because while you could rig it up to have it blow in your face, it's not going to last, and you're going to wake up hot and sweaty. Also, if there is some humidity in the air, these things are just going to add more. So let's say it's 80 degrees in your rig and the humidity is like 60%. It's just going to add water to the air, which is going to make you feel worse. You would be better off with just a fan. On top of all that, on top of the concept not being very good, this thing just isn't very good. The water compartment leaked, and while it says it swivels 360 degrees, which is true, a lot of people thought that meant it swiveled 360 degrees in all directions, which is not true. If you turn this thing upside down, it will drip. In fact, you have to be very careful. The way you fill this is through, it looks like a battery door in the back, and that battery door has a bit of fake silicone on it that kind of seals it. But it's just an inherently stupid design, because if that silicone has any defects at all, water's going to come out. I don't know why they didn't reverse it and have the water be like in a container at the top that just didn't have holes in it. It's very strange. Also, it's got a blue light. So if you try to use it at night, it's a bright blue light. It's going to light up your whole rig, which annoys me to death. Now, it does have a button that allows you to change the color. You can go like blue, yellow, orange, purple, green, okay, whatever. And then if you press it 8 times, it will turn the light out. But, it's time for sleep, and you're going to press it 8 times, because as soon as you turn it on, it goes to blue. It doesn't have a memory. The other thing is those nozzles clogged up super easy. Now, I was using spring water that I bought from, I think, Walmart. Imagine that. And it was clogging up the nozzles. There was enough dissolved minerals in there that even during the short time I used it for this few days I was out in Colorado, the nozzles were starting to get clogged up. If you were to use like city water, they'd get clogged up much quicker. Any kind of hard water would clog these things up almost instantly. And if they clog up, you're not getting any effect at all. The battery was very wimpy. There's no way this thing was going to last 5 hours that I could see. Even if you were out of water and it wasn't pumping water or anything, I still don't see how it could last 5 hours. A little tiny battery. So anyway, folks, evaporative cooling only works in the desert. And if you're trying to cool your rig that way, get something better than this. I mean, this one specifically, if you are in a situation where evaporative cooling can actually help you, they do make window unit evaporative coolers. I had one in Utah. That would be a much better idea. And they hold 2 liters of water, not the 3 or 4 ounces or whatever this thing holds. This is really not much different than somebody using a squirt gun in front of a fan. That's basically what you're going to get from this. It is not an air conditioner. It's really barely an air cooler, and it is not going to cool your rig down at all. In fact, it can make things a lot worse. Now, if you wanted to use it as just a fan with a light, like a night light, it's okay. The fan is not super powerful at 350 CFM, but, I'm not throwing the thing out. I'm going to keep it in my truck camper, or I will bring it. I'll tell you what, this is what I'm going to do with it. And I don't think this is worth the $30 I paid for it. I will bring it every time I go to Colorado or some other desert environment like that, just to use while I'm having lunch. That's literally all I will use it for. So I have a link for this in the show notes. You are welcome to buy this if you think it would be useful for you. But I don't think it will, to be completely honest. Especially this clamp-on one that they advertise as being good for like park benches and strollers and things like that. I mean, okay, if you have a baby in a stroller and there are brief moments in a dry environment where the baby's outside that they could benefit from this, maybe sorta, but if it's that hot out, and it needs to be really hot for this thing to do anything, maybe your baby shouldn't be out there in the first place. So that's the Arctic Air Grip Go evaporative cooler. And caveat emptor. Tales from the road. So, people have sent me another stereo for my Ram 1500 to test, and I've installed it, and it's really interesting. But I'm not going to talk about that one right now. I'm going to talk about the other one, the second one that was sent to me. So, this is an object lesson for how these things work for Vanlife or anything else. Anytime an influencer is telling you that a product was sent to them and they installed it, this is what happens, okay? So I did a review on one a couple years ago that I used for a long time, and that was fine. I think it was... But that video is still up on YouTube, and that product is exactly as I described it. It works okay. It's pretty good. Great for the price. And if you have the stock stereo, it is definitely an improvement. Easy for me to say that. It's absolutely true. The one I have now, I will also recommend. When I get to that, I still have to finish filming all the settings and stuff because they're super complicated. But the second one I got, and I got this, I think I got this in February. Something like that. It was a long time ago. I installed it, and it was a slight modification of the first one I'd installed, so I was pretty familiar with it. But it had a couple of problems. And so this manufacturer, who I'm not going to name, said that they wanted to review the video before I put it online. Now, that's a little bit of a red flag, but I was like, well, okay. I mean, the worst thing that could happen there is they'll say, well, we don't like this video, and I will say, I don't care. The terms of our agreement were that you would send me this, and then I would be able to say whatever I wanted about it. That's the terms. That's my terms always with all this stuff. If you want to send me something to review, no strings attached is the only thing I accept. But not putting up a negative video, I thought, all right, maybe that is okay. I mean, after all, no one will even know that they sent it to me. They're not getting any use out of it at all. And all they've done is actually cost me time because I'm going to have to take the thing out, which is what I had to do. So this other one, it just wasn't baked, if that makes any sense. They just didn't finish the software. The idea of these is that you use them with CarPlay or Android Auto, which was my use case. And the CarPlay implementation was terrible. It was old, and the screen was gigantic. Like, all the buttons were huge, like bigger than postage stamps on the screen. There is a setting in CarPlay now that makes the screen match the display you have, and this thing didn't have that. So I went back and forth with them, and they said, okay, you need to do this, and they sent me a link to an APK to download new Z-Link software, which is how this is done. This is all quasi-official. This is not Apple approved, by the way. If you buy any of these Android tablet stereos, it's not as though they have worked with Apple to get them to work. They're using a piece of software like Z-Link to emulate the necessary hardware to get CarPlay to work. So that's an issue too. But beside that, their Z-Link was wrong or broken, and they sent me a link to the new one. Like, okay, that's annoying, but we can get around that. I can put the link in my show notes for that, fine. So I'm using it, and I'm like, okay, I'm getting to the point where I can make the video, but over the time it's taking me to go through all this, I noticed something, which is that the volume is bizarre. It's all over the place. When I talk to Siri, the volume comes back distorted. For example, if I say, Siri, what time it is, it comes out like this, it's all distorted. And then if I try to use any AI application, it's all distorted like this. But music sounds fine. Audiobooks sound fine. And that's one of the complications of these things. CarPlay does not have an independent way to set the volumes for different things. It's supposed to. The way it's supposed to work is if you adjust the volume while a notification is playing, that will adjust the volume just for notifications. And if you adjust the volume while music is playing, it will adjust the volume just for music, etc. There's a whole bunch of different volume settings. They just don't give you access to them, which I find annoying. And this thing didn't even let you change them with the volume setting. And I went through all the settings, and if you've ever seen one of these, the settings are very complicated. They're duplicated in many places, and you don't actually know which one does anything. So for these reviews, I have to go through and figure that out for anybody watching the video. I couldn't do it. And so I went back and forth with them, update this, update your phone, what kind of phone are you using? And, I'm using an iPhone 17 Pro Max, like the latest iPhone. I can't do anything about that. It is up to date. Everything's up to date. And finally they get frustrated, and they mail me a new unit. It must be a hardware problem. We're sorry about that. We'll send you a new one. So they send me a new unit. And I'm like, okay, that doesn't bode well. But, now I have to install yet another stereo. So now I've got two of these things. And as soon as I installed it, the problem was fixed. I was like, oh, okay. It was a hardware problem. Now I can comment that, yeah, they have at least decent support with me. If there was a problem, they sent me a new unit. That's great. No charge. Perfect. And then a few days later, actually not even a few days later, a few hours later, all the volume was screwed up again to such a degree that it was going to drive me crazy. I was not going to be able to live with this. Distortion is just grating on me. Even when musicians add distortion to music on purpose, which is a thing now, I don't like it. And this thing did it on everything. So I wrote back and said, I'm sorry, this didn't fix it. And so what do you think they did? They went radio silent. It's been 2 months. Haven't heard anything. Never got a response. They have sent me 2 stereos, and they're not getting a video. Because I'm not going to even bother making the video for them to review if they're not going to communicate with me about how to solve this problem. Because I can't recommend this stereo with this problem. And maybe this problem's actually with my phone, or maybe it's with the RAM somehow. I don't know. But they won't work with me on it, and that's the end of it. So I've got 2 stereos. If anyone has a RAM 1500 Classic and needs a stereo, let me know. But, I've got 2 of these stereos just sitting there with all the accessories and everything. But I can't recommend it. And so this creates a bias that I don't like. Because while everything I say in my review videos or on this podcast is true to the best of my ability to attain truthiness. You didn't hear the negative one. I should have put up a negative review of this, which would have given me credibility. But there's two reasons not to do that. Number one, it wasn't my agreement with them to put up a negative video. My agreement was that they would review it. I'm not willing to even make the video unless they're going to talk to me about it. That's one problem. That's specific to them. The other problem is, as soon as you put up a negative video about a product, people are going to stop sending you products. That's just how it is. Like, why would you take a risk by sending a reviewer a product if there's a chance they would put up a negative review of your product and actually hurt your sales? So that's life as an honest influencer. That doesn't even bring up the dishonest influencers who are told to buy the product on Amazon and then give it a 5-star review, and then they'll get their money refunded and all this stuff, or they'll get payment, etc. And this is one of the reasons I do not accept payment for reviews. It's always offered. They always ask me what my rate is and all this, and I don't have a rate. I'm not playing any of those games. I'm not faulting people who do. There are ethical ways to do that, but I'm not even getting involved in that. So that's what it's like out here in the great big world of being an influencer. I am not an influencer, but I will make a review for a car stereo if someone sends me one. Maybe not anymore. I have taken the stereos out and put them in so many times in the RAM that things are starting to wear out, like screw holes are starting to wear out. But this new one I have is actually really different, and I like it, and I will do a review about that, and I will share that with you. So, as I said earlier, caveat emptor, which if you don't speak Latin means buyer beware. Resource recommendation. Hey, I'm pretty excited about this, actually. This is so obvious to me, I don't know why I didn't think of it before, but someone in the Discord channel, and I'm sorry I don't remember who said this. I should remember, and I should have written it down, and I didn't, and I apologize. So, you are very cool, and I appreciate you. I just can't remember exactly which one of you it was, which is terrible. However, I'm going to share your idea with everybody, which was so simple and obvious. I can't believe that this has never come up before, but credit goes to this person. Use NotebookLM, now called Gemini Notebook, to store your manuals. So we are buying all kinds of stuff for our vans. We've got the vehicle's owner's manual, obviously. We have the owner's manual for the solar controller, for the solar panels, for the inverter, for the refrigerator, for the diesel heater. That's probably not something you're actually going to be able to read. There's all these owner's manuals, and you can keep the paper and keep them in your van and hope that you can find them when you need them. Or you can get the PDF versions of all of these and put them in Gemini Notebook. It used to be called NotebookLM. They just changed it to Gemini Notebook. There is a free version that has limits, of course, and then you can pay so much a month to have the official version. The reason I say this and not ChatGPT or Claude or any of the others is because Gemini Notebook is locked context, meaning that it's not going to hallucinate. It's not going to make things up because it's not pulling from the World Wide Web or its own knowledge. It's only pulling from things you give it. So if you feed it all your manuals, you can then just simply go in and say, what is the setting to change my solar controller from lead acid to lithium? And it will find it and display it on the screen with a link to that page of the PDF that mentions it. So you can look and see, okay, that looks right. You can click on the link to double be sure, and there you are, boom, right on that exact page. Takes up no space. The only issue is that you will need internet access to use this. Now, a way around that is simply to have the PDFs of all your owner's manuals stored offline so you can access them when you don't have internet. But I would do both. You can also, and there's a bunch of tricks for this. You can mail them to yourself and then just search for them in Gmail or whatever. But this is the best solution I can think of. And you don't even have to remember the name of the manual or even the name of the product, because Gemini Notebook will figure that out. You know, what is the setting for my solar controller? It can also tell you what is the model number of your solar controller, depending on, you know, how specific the manual is. In addition to that, you can add notes. You can say the serial number of my solar controller is boom. Once you add it in there, it remembers it forever, and then you can always have that. So it's a great depository for essential information. It's not a great chatbot. It's not meant for that. You're not going to have conversations with it. It is a research tool that is based on only the information you give it. It's kind of like your own private AI. It's very simple, very dry, and yeah, it does amazing things like it'll make an audio podcast and a movie. I mean, yeah, if you want to make a movie out of your owner's manuals, it will do that for you. I am not thinking that is the proper solution in this case. So right now, the URL for Gemini Notebook is actually notebooklm.google.com. I imagine that will change, but that's what it is right now. I'll have a link to that in the show notes. But consider this idea. If you are somebody who has a Google account, this would mean that you would have a queryable database of all of your manuals forever. And if you ever get rid of a device, all the sources are listed and you can just check a checkbox and it'll stop searching that. Or if you have, maybe you have 2 rigs and they each have different things, you can make them context sensitive, which rig you're looking at, etc. I think it's an excellent idea. I'm going to start doing this immediately. And thank you to the person, I can't remember who it was. I owe you one, and I think everybody does too, because this is a great idea. A place to visit. Well, folks, if you're ever in way northern Montana and you're near the town of Cutbank, yes, right, Cutbank, Montana, you can see the world's largest penguin. Now, some of you who are familiar with natural history may be a little surprised to see a penguin up there. Even if you've been to Little America, Wyoming, which also features a penguin, this is the biggest penguin. This is the biggest penguin statue at 27 feet. It is made of concrete, and it is standing right in Cutbank next to a motel that used to be a hardware store that used to be owned by a man who was impressed that Cutbank, Montana was listed in a weather report as the coldest place in the United States. And that's why the penguin is there. And it was indeed very, very cold. Negative 53 Fahrenheit wind chill, which is not that far off of the Celsius. So sure, it was very, very cold. Now what's weird about this is that the Cutbank penguin isn't this one. They made a movie called Cutbank, but it was too expensive to film in the US, so they filmed in Canada, in Alberta, and they built a replica of the penguin there. So if you want to see the Cutbank penguin, that's actually the one in Alberta, and it's only 17 feet tall. The biggest one is in Cutbank, Montana, but it is not the Cutbank penguin. It is a penguin in I don't know. Look, the guy moved to Texas long ago. He doesn't care. If you want to see a very cartoonish penguin who's wearing a goofy, looks like a flour sack hat, has gigantic feet and completely the wrong colors for his beak, point your van to Cutbank, Montana, and you can see this really, really large concrete thing. Well, folks, thank you very much for listening to episode 303. Music, as always, is by Simon Wagg. If you are looking to interact with some van life folks in a safe and supportive way, you can visit us on Facebook at the Built to Go Facebook group, or in our Discord server at the, Built to Go Discord server. You can find links to both of those at builttogo.com, including links to me if you need to get a hold of me for anything at all. And until next time, remember these words that are attributed to P.T. Barnum. He apparently said, "Every crowd has a silver lining."